Hi, welcome to my home and to my channel. I'm Debbie, and yes, I'm coming from the Pacific Northwest where I live, and I am also offering you a weekly episode on something good about all the generations, the seniors, the Gen Zers, and everybody in between. So come along with me and let's get started.
Woke up this morning feeling fine. There's something special on my mind. Last night I met a new girl in the neighborhood. Whoa, yeah. Something tells me I'm into something good. Something tells me I'm into something. She's the kind of girl who's not too shy, and I can tell I'm her kind of guy. She danced close to me like I hope she would. She danced for me like I hope she would. Something tells me I'm into something good. Something tells me I'm into something. We only danced for a minute or two, and then she stuck close to me the whole night through. Can I be the one in love? For she's everything I've been dreaming of. She's everything I've been dreaming of. I walked her home and she held my hand. I knew it couldn't be just a one night stand. So I asked to see her next week, and she told me I could. I asked to see her and she told me I could. Something tells me I'm into something good. Something tells me I'm into something. Something tells me I'm into something.
Hi everyone, welcome back, family and friends. I hope you're having a nice day. Today is season 2, episode 4, Sunday, October 13th. And what I've got for you today is someone very special. Back in, I think it was May or June of this past year, I had Shelby with me, who is a Gen Z student over at our university here. And we were having a lovely interview discussion, if you remember that episode, all about college life here in Eugene, Oregon, and back in the days when I was a college student, just like Shelby. And we got the female perspective. Well, today I've got a special guest with me. This is David, and David is also with the University of Oregon, and he's a Gen Zer too, with a male perspective this time, because today's episode is all about the world of, ready for this, all you seniors out there, the world of dating and relationships now during the digital age, the age of dating websites and apps and all of that. Back in the day, I remember, oh my goodness, I've done it plenty of decades, dating out there in the world. And there was a time, and of course, when there was no internet. There was a time when I was after college and before I got married and before I had other relationships where you just basically met people in the world. You went to mixers or you went to parties, but there was no apps or internet. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce David here. David, welcome. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
He's a perfect example of a male Gen Z friend of mine who has the dating perspective in the year 2024 and beyond, because now with Gen Z and with the advent of internet and apps and websites, so much of which I can't even begin to understand, but I've been on a few here and there, he can give the perspective, especially from a Gen Z guy, of what the world of dating is like and developing relationships. So without further ado, here is David. Welcome.
Hello, thank you for having me.
So nice to have you. So tell me now, my viewers mostly remember those that, married young or whatever, and maybe some of them are, now widowed or widowers, or they're out in the dating world again. They know that this is a new territory. Tell us about what it is like, especially from your perspective, in the dating world today.
It's maybe not the easiest place to be. I think, at least from a young person's perspective, whenever you're dealing with the apps,
Yes.
which are very prevalent these days, you just don't get like the connection that you do in an in-person meeting. And I think that you don't feel an obligation to treat a person like maybe the same way you would in person, right? You don't give them the same respect because you're like, oh, it's just a person on a screen.
Of course.
Yeah. And that kind of bleeds over into I think your average dating lifestyle too is so much has become short attention span and immediate gratification. So whenever, relationships and dating, to have like a good relationship, you have to build it on a solid foundation.
Yes, of course.
And to do that, you can't be on like a fast-paced, like interstate kind of lifestyle.
That's right. What I've noticed, first of all, among many things that I've noticed, is in my generation, we're so used to a real conversation. And nowadays, everything is shortened to little emojis and, what's up? And everything is small text, not even full sentences when you start out on an app or a dating website. The goal, of course, is to meet in person. That would be, but we're so not used to this whole thing of just a quick conversation over a form other than in person. But we do it now because there aren't that many alternatives, and the goal is to finally meet in person. So how do you build a connection when you're starting out, as most of the generation does, with little emojis and what's up and all that, and following up and making sure that you're presenting yourself the way you hope to?
Mm-hmm. I think, when it comes to trying to start a conversation on, say, a dating app like that, the most important thing in the entire interaction is the first message.
Okay.
And that first message will dictate whether or not you're going to get any response
Okay.
from the person, which I understand.
Yeah.
I understand you're dealing with strangers on the internet, and if they say something crazy out of line, that would be obviously a negative thing. I wouldn't want to be around somebody like that. But at the same time, there's a lot of pressure in that text.
Yes.
to find a middle ground between not being boring and just saying, hey, how are you doing?
Yes.
And then not being the most kind of out there person.
This whole thing too, and again, it's all new to me and most of my viewers that are of a certain age, were the baby boomers, but this whole swipe left, swipe right, swipe this, swipe that, it just sounds so impersonal. Like all you're looking at is usually a photo, and that's another thing, is to put up photos that show perhaps your personality, a good headshot, not to have sunglasses on. I always delete any guy that I will see on a dating website if I'm in that stage where if he's wearing sunglasses or he's not smiling or he's smoking a cigarette. There are certain things where you just know that the photo is, especially the main photo, is very important to show off hopefully something about yourself with a nice smile. So that's the thing too, this business of swiping back and forth. I just find that to be so cruel, because if you're only looking at photos and not getting to know the actual personality, you might be eliminating people who might be perfect for you. What have you found in that, especially as a guy? See, I usually get girls' perspectives, my girlfriends, my senior friends, we talk about this, but rarely do I get a young Gen Z male perspective on this. How does that work for you? What are some of the pitfalls?
It definitely feels like it's, whether it's online or in person, just the culture around dating feels like it's all or nothing.
Does it? Wow.
It feels like there's this way, it's like you have to be looking for the forever compass, and the person has to be perfect in every way, and they can't slip up or they'll give you the ick. That's
the ick factor. Wait a minute. I need that. I need to define that, because I love some of these terms that the Gen Zers use. One of my former conversations with Shelby, in fact, back this past spring, was about, I asked her, how do you start a conversation, like if you're on campus? And she goes, well, one of the things you can talk to somebody if you want to start a convo is to say, hey, what's your snap? And I go, what's your snap? I got to remember that. So tell me, what is the ick factor? I think I know, but you tell me.
So the ick factor is something where it's like a red line to not be crossed. And it can be both valid and also kind of irrational.
Okay.
So for instance, a person could get the ick if they understood that you've cheated in the past. That could be an ick.
Oh, that would be a big ick.
But another ick could be if you dry your hands off a weird way. It can be very surface level.
Yes.
And just like honestly, I believe that says more when it's surface level. It says more about the person who's like getting the ick.
Okay.
But I'd be lying if I don't have like some very shallow things that are like kind of non-negotiables for me too.
Well, of course, I mean, it's very true. They say that, now I just read this somewhere, that women look at height and men look at weight. Like some women think the taller the better, and some men think, oh, she's got to be, she has to not be, too skinny, but she has to have some curves and definitely not be overweight, because also the photo needs to be recent, especially the main photo, and that in my senior generation can be the ick when seniors will go out and meet somebody, because the goal is to meet in person, maybe for coffee or meet for a walk, just the first initial meeting in person. And if they don't match up with the photo of a recent photo, there you go. Like the woman might really have gained some weight and she was kind of fibbing or whatever. We do the same thing, I think, with our driver's license too. Like we can't fib our age, but we try to make ourselves look, like, oh, I'm this tall or whatever. So that's the other thing too that can definitely be an ick for any age group that's out there in the relationship world.
So what Gen Z and our generation would usually call that as catfishing.
Oh, yeah, explain this to me. I've got some senior viewers who've been, God bless you guys, you know who you are, married for many, many, many decades. They married their high school sweetheart, or they just, they're raising families, now they're grandparents. But this is also the time of life where some of them may no longer have their spouse with them, and they're learning how to navigate the world, this new world. And their grown kids and grandkids are saying, Mom, Grandma, Grandpa, go out there and date. Go out there and get out there again. You don't want to just sit home moping because you don't have your spouse anymore. And they mean well, but we're not prepared sometimes. We don't know. It's very frightening because it's a new world. So what do you say to all of that?
I think in any type of, when you're dealing with any type of difficult situation, you have to have time. You have to let the time pass. And that's hard because everybody around you wants to see you turn happy immediately. Everybody wants you to be able to...
We want you to be happy. You've heard that from your grandkids, I'm sure. Okay.
But at the same time, grief is a really strong and powerful thing. And being able to internalize that in a healthy way, learning how to enjoy different hobbies or whatever. And from that, I think relationships and things like that will come, because I think passion is the now we're getting in a little bit to my personal thing, but I think generally passion is like the most attractive thing a person could have, because they have like a goal in mind. They no matter what you look like on the outside, on the inside you're striving for something.
Yes.
No matter how small that is, no matter how, just as long as you have a real goal about something, and people gravitate to that. It's infectious.
I'm so glad you brought up about the goal, striving for something, and I'll tell you why. We have a very popular show on ABC now, The Golden Bachelorette. There's also been The Golden Bachelor, where they do the same premise as The Bachelor and The Bachelorette and some of those dating shows, but it's for people age 60 and up. And right now we have a senior lady who's 61, and she's got 20 or so senior age bachelors to choose from, and it's a very popular show. The thing is, she is a widow, and her husband died of pancreatic cancer, and it was a number of years ago, so she is ready, but there will always be a portion of her heart that will belong to her husband, okay? And many of the men that are vying for her golden rose, as they call it, are in the same situation, or they've been divorced, but most of them really have somebody that they were involved with. But the point is, the goals change, and here's why. When you're young, like your age group, Gen Z or those that come after, You have goals such as, well, when I graduate school, I want to start building my business or building my practice, building my work. And then my goal will be to make sure that I am out there to be able to find a relationship, or even while I'm working, but have that relationship so that later on, the next goal is to be married and start a family. Think about where you're going to live, maybe your first house, mortgage. In other words, those are the life goals of your generation, which is normal and natural. But on the Golden Bachelor and Bachelorette, the goals change. They've lived that. They've done that. So the new goal is to find companionship, to enjoy the stages of their life with travel and with maybe with grandchildren or whatever. The point is to learn how to enjoy all those decades that they worked so hard, mostly with their spouse who may no longer be around. The goal has changed to find peace and joy. And one of the things that comes up, which is a good comparison with your generation, is that these more golden senior people that are on this show, and it's a reflection of the world in dating when you're a baby boomer, is the fact that they often, the deal breaker will be they don't want to move away from their support system that they've built through the generations. For instance, your grandchildren, your grown kids, your doctor, the people that you have gotten to, be familiar with in your own milieu. Now, the Golden Bachelorette, whose name is Joan, is from Maryland, and she told the producers before she started on the journey on TV that she will not relocate. She wants to be in Maryland, and if anyone finds that if she finds her love match, if they're from another community, they're going to have to come to her, or at least to travel together and enjoy each other. But she will not leave her support system, which is so different than your generation, which is all about oftentimes moving for a job or moving to buy their first house or raising the kids and all of that. And I found that to be very, very interesting, because they can make or break a senior's relationship. They don't want to be far away from their family, and I can understand it. So when you said about the goal, that is so interesting and so relevant, because your generation is just starting that stage of life.
I think that when it comes to about moving away and that kind of thing, I don't think that we are necessarily any more apt to do that than any generation before.
Okay.
I think we're just young, and young people want to go out and experience the world that they haven't seen.
That's right.
But when it comes to goals and picking hobbies and whatever that is, I think that we get so caught up on our timeline of we think we have this much time on Earth, but really we don't know that. And I think one important thing to take, just in life but also in relationships, is don't think about things on a timeline.
Okay.
In a way. Let the story come to you, because once you start thinking about things on a timeline and too much in detail about your goals that are specifically related to relationships, you start getting expectations.
True.
And expectations are the number one thing that will kill any blossoming relationship.
I remember a line from a personal growth seminar, and they said, expectations ruin peace of mind. And that can be true of anything. Expectations, if that's the thing, it can ruin your peace of mind, because the peace of mind is just enjoying what is presented to you that day and taking that opportunity no matter what it is, and using it or not, but not to have expectations, especially on other people, because they can feel it in the ethers. They can feel like if you're trying to be clingy or whatever, they pick up on that, and that's true of any dating age range. So knowing that expectations can ruin peace of mind for everybody, no matter what their age is or their life situation, what are some of the ways that you can present yourself to get beyond the app, but start out with the app or the website, whatever, to get to the point where you can feel that there is a connection enough to meet in real time?
I really think it's just about whoever's being receptive. In my experience, 80 to 90% of matches or people that you message on dating apps won't message back.
Okay. You can't take that personally. It's almost like being in the acting world where you can't take rejection personally. It's not about you, right?
You know, a lot of people, like my friends and stuff, like to call it a game. You know, all the dating apps, they're a game. And back when I was in like middle school or high school, there was this game called Hot or Not on the phone.
Oh, I think I've heard of that.
And it was basically like a dating app, but there was no messaging, there was no dating. It was just you said whether a person was hot or not. And I think that that's kind of what, at least the mindset of a lot of people on a lot of dating apps is it's very worried about the physical attractiveness of somebody over even whatever you put else the rest in your bio and stuff. So just that opening text it's just like a first impression.
Yes.
In person, right? But you don't get to smile and be a human with that first impression. You just have to be funny, or you have to be clever.
Yes.
And you have to hope that if you're making references, the person gets the reference.
True. Yes. Right.
And
because if you tell a joke online or whatever, as opposed to in person, you don't get the inflection, you don't get the look, you don't get some of the things that you need to really get the joke, and that can happen. So I would just think it's very sad now when people, especially in your generation, although maybe my generation does it too, where they look at how many likes you get, how many of the influencers, followers, I think that's the word I'm looking for, the whole follower business. Like, for instance, I'm not doing these episodes for any kind of followers or any kind of monetization. I am doing this as a senior legacy keepsake for family and friends, so that after I'm long gone, they can have me on digital rather than just to look at photo albums or to look at scrapbooks, which was from my generation. Now everything is, wonderful to be able to express yourself so that someday they can look back on me and say, oh, that's what she was about, or that's what she was thinking about. That's how she talked. You know what? Friends and family, I'm stopping right in the middle of the conversation because we're running way over time. In fact, so much so that we're going to have a part 2. Next week on October 20th, tune in for part 2 of Dating and Relationships with myself, Debbie, and my Gen Z guest, David. I hope you'll tune in, and between now and then, have a wonderful week. See you next week. Bye.